Welcome to How I Raised It, the podcast that goes behind the scenes with entrepreneurs who've raised capital. We uncover the tips, tricks, and techniques they use to get investors to write a check. Strap in and turn it up.
Hi, welcome to another episode of How I Raised It, produced by Foundersuite.com. Today I have Gregory Robinson of The Mom Project coming to us from a rainy Chicago. How's your day going, Gregory?
It's going well, all things considered. Thank you, Nathan. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's, I like to get, we've had a handful of Chicago startups on the show so far. I love to get like a diversity of business types, of geographic locations. I love to have it from all over. So glad to have a windy city. What is Mom Project? What do you guys do?
So the Mom Project is a digital talent marketplace and community that connects talented women and men with world-class employers that really respect work and life. And when we say respect work and life, it really comes down to two components. So some form of flexibility, it doesn't have to mean fully remote, but, understanding that, hey, maybe I need to drop off my kid before I get into the office. So my start is at 9:30. And the second is respect. And respect is a huge factor. Respect that you can bring up family in an interview and not feel prejudice. Respect that, your manager and the executive team over you, support that you equally prioritize your family to your work. And so we launched in April of 2016, based out of Chicago. And we've had a busy few years. In just about 3 years since we launched, we've grown to have over 100,000 women on our platform, over 1,000 companies, and partnering with 50 Fortune 1000. So, it's been a flurry of a year, but really exciting to get the business off the ground.
It's interesting. I'm seeing maybe a small trend of different job and work marketplaces. I just had a call 2 days ago with a company called Vankst that is a job market for cannabis industry. And here you are with kind of the talent marketplace for women, and pretty interesting how it's sort of splintering beyond the mega sites out there, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about the two types of work, there's, full-time, which we all know well. I think it's what people usually think of when they think of having a job. But there's really part-time and contract-based work. And so the gig economy is a rising trend. So the idea that you work on a shorter scope, or that you might be an independent contractor, more and more people are doing it. And it's not just people who work for Uber and DoorDash. It's people who also work in professional sectors. But I think something that's interesting that people don't fully appreciate is that the gig economy has actually been a huge piece of our existing world for years. So it's just been hiding under a different name, and it's been hiding under this kind of staffing industry umbrella. So I think the stat is something about $120 billion of payroll passes through project-based work that is mostly controlled by these larger staffing companies. And, and they control access to these jobs, and they've got great gig factors. But they just haven't been able to bring them to people. So you do exactly. So you see marketplaces now kind of seizing on this opportunity and seizing on their ability to communicate to a millennial and a more digital audience, with that digital platform like the Mom Project. We have a site where you can go and create a profile very simply and be matched, pretty smartly to opportunities. And that's just the way that, people are preferring to engage now. So I think you're going to see, our type of businesses grow and share, as this millennial class kind of grows to be the biggest part of the workforce. And it already is 40% of the workforce today.
Very interesting. I guess was the original idea, or let's talk about the original idea. Was it you or someone that, had kids and went off out of the job for a while? And I guess it's called the Mom Project.
Yeah. So the origin is actually quite interesting. So my background is from private equity. I worked at a firm called L. Catterton. L. Catterton's the largest global private equity fund focused on consumer goods. So they have companies like Peloton. They used to own Restoration Hardware and Home Chef. So yeah, really just a great fund. And at the time when I had my first son, Asher, my wife Allison Robinson, who was the founder of the business, went on maternity leave, and it was in maternity leave when she was evaluating, going back to work and what that would look like in conjunction with being a mother and balancing both of our careers, that she realized that there just weren't really scalable, solid solutions. So she kept on researching because she was a Procter & Gamble, commercial executive who fed off of data, and she stumbled across a Harvard Business Review study that showed that 43% of college-educated women who have children off-ramp from the workforce. And this was really kind of a fundamental learning. When you look at, how we're trying to expand our economy and, try to create a lot of value from within, this became a big opportunity that all these women were leaving. And so that was really the original insight, that a lot of women were opting out, and we needed to be more thoughtful about, just the topics of work around motherhood and, how to make sure that they can have a kind of continuous experience or not have to take a step back if they choose to take a break for parenting. And so that was really the origin.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It sort of resonates. I mean, you got the gig economy angle there, but it also sort of resonates, like you're talking about, with the work-life balance and respect, with this thing I just heard of for the first time 2 days ago, the zebras. Do you know the zebra movement?
I don't. Please tell me.
It's pretty interesting. There's I think I saw an investor's, Cyan Bannister's, sort of involved in it, or she was talking about it at least, where it's this whole movement or trend to not just create unicorns, which are, balls to the wall, scale as fast as possible, winner take all, but these zebras, which are a little bit more inclusive, sort of more focused on steady growth versus growth at all costs, a little more focused on taking care of your employees instead of burning them out. It's this sort of different mindset for startups, building startups. I just literally stumbled on it 2 days ago. I thought it was pretty intriguing. Sounds like you're sort of in that vein a little bit, right? Or
yeah, I mean, I can't wait to hear what the next zoo analogy will be. But
right.
So yeah, last year we grew about 300% year over year, and we're going to be growing another 300% or so this year. So we've got these big tailwinds. So I think there are those unicorn dynamics of, the cross section of two giant opportunities. Getting to best in class gender parity by McKinsey's stats is a $2.1 trillion US opportunity. And that's not even full parity. That's just what they deem best in class. So when you look at just the, re-entry or workforce participation piece, that's an $800 billion opportunity. I don't know that many 800 billion untapped pieces of our economy there are left. And then, the rising gig economy and companies understanding and attempt to integrate these into their workforces. And, I believe that, Facebook and Google are, have almost equal, headcount participation from gig workers as they do, or contract workers as they do from full-time staff themselves. So really the companies who are, closest to the data and trying to, be thoughtful about, the trend of work are moving quickly. And I think a lot of people are following.
On that note, though, Facebook is getting kind of skewered right now a little bit because they've got these content review contract workers that are making $29K a year, whereas your average Facebook employee is $240K a year, right? You're sort of having this pretty huge delta between the full-time employee and the contract worker. I don't know if that's something you can address, or is that part of the...
Yeah, funny enough. So we are actually an approved supplier for Facebook contract-based work. So I can speak to that. So I think, there are cases where certain contractor classes may not be getting, the highest bill rate. But I think on average, and I can speak to the roles that we see, the compensation is very competitive. I think that, in fact, sometimes from an hourly perspective, it's higher than the salaried employees. And the reason that they do that is because, when they do bring in contractors, generally they don't offer those full suite of benefits like stock options and, and long parental leaves and paid time off. So in order to be competitive and have, kind of really full-time contractors, which is what they shoot for, 6+ month projects, you have to, kind of balance the scale. So from my experience, and so that's one data point, I found Facebook has actually been, really, really good to work with.
Let's talk about that a little bit. And this is a broader sort of gig economy question, I guess, but that's the rub, I think, against being a contractor, being in the gig economy is how do you deal with insurance? How do you get insurance for your family, right? If you're not employed, and benefits too. But do you guys solve any of that for the moms or the participants on the platform, or what?
So we do. So we partner with a company called Stride. In our opinion, Stride is the best digital platform to source, individual and family healthcare. And, it really is interesting because, healthcare used to be considered part of that kind of that welfare package, when companies, you join a company and you'd be there 5, 10, 20 years, right? And there was a dynamic where, they really were responsible for taking you to retirement, right? And the reality is not that many people stay in a job for 20 years anymore, and for our own benefit, so that we can take opportunities to work at startups or to maybe change a location for a promotion. And since the Affordable Care Act, private insurance market really has gotten a lot better, and there are really great startups that are kind of getting into the space to provide ways for people to evaluate healthcare benefits. And so what we really feel like is, yes, it's great when an employer is able to provide you good healthcare, but really the benefit is that they're helping pay for it. They're helping pay for the premium. They're helping create a class of people that hopefully get slightly better rates. And so it's more about the cost than, say, the access to good healthcare. So, what we recommend is that, take that cost into consideration in your bill rate. So if you are getting paid $50 an hour, which roughly equates to about $100,000 a year person, a $2.50 an hour, bill rate adjustment, more than, compensates what a company would be providing for you. And then you can privately, attain healthcare. So we really help people do that. And we help to curate kind of best partners in that continuum of care to make being a contractor really more feasible.
Got it. Great. And just in a kind of nuts and bolts way, how does it work? I guess if you're, coming back to the workforce, you've got talent in finance or marketing, you post a profile, then I guess, are you charging companies, or what's the business model?
Yeah, so it's free for all talent, right? So companies pay, and they basically pay when they perform, when there's a placement. So there's a markup when there's a placement. So what happens is people, over half of the people who join our platform actually are word of mouth. So people hear from us, or we're in the news, or we reach out to them directly about new opportunities with good brands, and they join the platform and they create a really basic profile. And this profile has kind of what you would expect it to have, as far as, what are my work skills? But, it's really more conversational. It's like, we like to say, what is your superpower? How do you like to describe yourself? It's less about this was my title, as in this is what I think I'm quite good at. And then the other piece that makes us really more special is we work in work-life considerations. So, what are your optimum, number of hours a week that you want to work? Are there certain days that are considerations? Are you able to travel? Are you able to commute? And all of these factors, basically build into the match algorithm. So when people on our platform are notified about opportunities, they're taken into consideration. So, they're fairly well curated. And the interesting thing that we found, so when we launched the company, we thought this is a clear proposition for people who are trying to return to work, who don't really have tools or ways to do that, and we can help them do it. But what we found to be really interesting is about 70% of the people on our platform are currently in the workforce. And what they're looking for is an employer that really gets it better, or potentially a more flexible situation, or looking to work with best brands who identify with the mission. So we have this, what I like to call, a really passive audience. They are willing to kind of look at the roles that we curate, and so when they actually bid on something, they're bidding because it's motivated them in the way that it's different from what they're currently doing, which is pretty cool.
And then for companies, am I browsing talent profiles, or can I post a project and have people apply to it? What's that side of the equation?
No, that's a great question. So it's a project-based model. So our companies have accounts and customer success managers who help them create projects. And then when those projects are created, then it runs through the match science, which then invites people in our marketplace to apply to those roles. So, in their dashboard, when people start applying, they'll be able to see, the profile and the resume of the people, that were curated for them. And we stack them by relevancy. So, our match algorithm tends to be about 75% accurate. So that means, 3 out of every 4 people who are hired are deemed a best match. And so sometimes we'll get, especially for a fully remote job, we could get hundreds of bids. So it's really important that navigate through all of that interest thoughtfully. And
as a company, am I paying just to post a project, or am I paying a percent?
Nope. Yeah, it's a markup. So it's a 20% markup. So basically the way that it works is if we were paying the talent $50 an hour, then we would bill the company $60 an hour, so that 20% markup. And for that, we handle all billing, all tax, talent relations, and really just help both sides navigate through this journey. I can say small businesses are really taking to it. So when I say small, I mean kind of under 250, because they may be able to offer more flexibility. They may want to let somebody work 2 days from home on a 30-hour schedule, and in return they get somebody who is more seasoned than the role, but that person is absolutely satisfied because they're getting engaging work, they're getting an opportunity for growth, to work cross-functionally, and they're actually able to equally prioritize their family. So we find that it's a really great proposition for small businesses. That said, the biggest client base that we have is really Fortune 1000 enterprises, because when you step back from it, they really have the most roles. And if you look at the trends, women are entering these companies in the workforce from college at parity. So actually, about 53% of people placed in enterprises are women. But about 8 years in, right when they're reaching that manager director level, it drops to 35% women. And it's not shocking that corresponds exactly when women are having families, having their first or their second children.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's the finance guy in me is sort of seeing it like an arbitrage opportunity, right? Which is probably your PE background is looking at it too, right? Yeah.
Look, I mean, there's a lot of feel good in it, but at the end of the day, these women are incredibly good at what they do, and they have a tremendous economic value, right? And companies are desperate; they're hungry for this talent. We've got in the professional sector, the lowest rates of unemployment in recent history. That means when people are filling full-time jobs, those roles sit open for longer than they've ever sat in the past 10 years on average. So you start to say, okay, look, if I can do a part-time permanent, a 30-hour a week, permanent role, or maybe I bring in a really highly skilled contractor for 3 to 6 months while we take our time to kind of get the full-time solution. It really starts to make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Okay. Very cool. Sounds like a very clever business. Let's talk about raising money for this. How many rounds have you guys done?
Yeah, so we've done 2 rounds. We did our seed round at the beginning of 2018, which was a little over 2.5 million. And then in December of 2018, we announced our Series A, which was just about 8 million. So just under 11 million in total.
Excellent. And it looks like you started, let's go kind of chronologically. Did you go through an accelerator? I have something called Engage Ventures as an early investor.
Yeah. We did not go through an accelerator. So yeah, that's a great topic as far as what really sets you up for success. So, if you look at the money we've raised in the stage of the business, I'm very proud. We've raised just about $11 million in 3 years. But if you look at the timing of how we've raised that, we've really raised it all in the past, call it 15 months. Mm-hmm. So, the first 2 years of the business, we ran quite lean. And one of the reasons we ran lean is because, we had the ability to founder fund for a period of time. But also Allison had, a very strong background in enterprise sales. She headed up Pampers North America strategy. So she understood millennial mom just about as well as anyone on the market. Mm-hmm. Right. And I had this, professional finance background. So we took the position that, between us, we had that requisite kind of combination of skills to get the business off the ground, which we did. When we came to market in April, the Tribune wrote a cover of the business page story about us. We were able to get enterprise businesses within our first 6 months. The business had traction. But what I can share with the audience is that, business traction and ability to raise funds in your first year aren't necessarily correlated.
Did you try and raise the money in those early days, or did you just kind of bootstrap it for a couple of years?
Our plan was basically at the end of 16, early 17, to raise an angel round, or to kind of raise a small seed. So, and really what we encountered was a couple dimensions. One dimension is you really can't underestimate the first time founder weight that comes into play for investors, especially for early investors who are really making founder bets. Mm. And while some of it is, you have to be from the right circles and you have to say things a certain way, there is an unquestionable difference between running a mid-sized business or a large business and being successful, and having the ability to kind of grit through and grow a business from nothing, with triple-digit growth in a sustained way. And it's just so hard for them to evaluate whether you have that without runway. Another factor was, our product is people. So we had an MVP, so we had we had decent technology, but, not multi-million-dollar investment in technology. And so, depending on, what your focus of your startup is, if you're playing in a space like we were in marketplaces that are, basically transforming the staffing space, and your product is people, these are things that, make, I call them, venture investors who are predominantly technology investors a little weary. So we had a kind of a subject matter challenge. We were a transformative marketplace, focused on enterprise sales. So we had a people challenge, and then we also had an end customer. So we saw early traction. We knew that it was real, but it is so hard for investors to qualify, a 1-2 good contract, right? Because like $50,000 from an enterprise customer could quadruple your revenue in the first year, right? And make the growth chart look phenomenal. But on an absolute basis, it's not necessarily what it's going to take. So between being first time investors and really having to kind of prove out in a space that isn't purely product based, it ended up taking a little bit more time than we anticipated. And there are pros and cons to that as well. So,
how long did it take you to raise that seed round? What's the time frame roughly?
So I'd say just over a year and a half.
Yeah. And the list is an interesting list. I'm seeing names like IrishAngels and Atlanta Seed Company and Tech Square Venture Partners and some names I've never heard before. Maybe tell us how you assembled this list and like, what's the Irish Angel connection?
Well, so IrishAngels is actually Notre Dame's alumni investment fund, and run by some incredibly smart women. It's a classic school angel fund. Notre Dame is one of the best schools in the country, and in the Midwest, it is it's just really an exceptional brand, right? So when we did start to raise money in the Chicago ecosystem, we were lucky enough to kind of get them involved. Something interesting though about the path to our funds is that some of our earliest commitments actually came from what you would consider probably to be more corporate-backed funds than say traditional tech funds. So Engage Ventures in Atlanta. So Engage is the first really Fortune 1000 backed venture fund. So its LPs are Delta and Home Depot and AT&T and Cox and Georgia Pacific. Really large players. And what they partnered with Tech Ventures to create Engage was really to invest in businesses they thought were innovative, but really to support them, with their ecosystem, and then in a way, really, to kind of pick companies that they could envision using. So, some of our first dollars actually came from effectively, a group of, an investment committee that had a mix of venture capitalists, but also, kind of corporate strategics. And then we had BBG Ventures, which is a great seed fund run by Susan Lin, out of New York, and they're actually. They were previously owned by Oath. So in a way, we got kind of the corporate confirmation even before we got the traditional technology confirmation. But where I would say, go ahead.
Oh, was that a strategy, or is that just what ended up happening? That's where you found buyers.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much credit you want to give yourself in retrospect, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think, we, and Allison, if you speak with her, you see that she really, is doing something special and understands, what she's solving for women in a unique way. And, but what ended up happening is that, these CEOs of these big companies have these diversity pledges, so there was these top-down commitments, and ultimately their businesses are still trying to work to meet these kind of giant targets like gender parity by 2025. So it was need that kind of created a relationship of mutual, benefit.
Okay, great. And was there any unique element when you're pitching like Engage Ventures, which is the Fortune 1000? I guess is a lot of your pitch focused on how it can help them meet those, inclusion goals, or is it more just here's the business? Yeah,
I mean, I think more funds nowadays really do care about, what you're solving. So, you can look at what you're solving from a financial size of prize, but you can also look at what you're solving from a significance. What's this mean for us? Is this going to be, another convenience play, valuable convenience play, or is this something that can really, have a life cycle and improve the world we live in? So I think that factored in, but also the adjustable market. So, people who invest in marketplaces, people who invest in HR tech, they understand how work is transforming. And so they, the gig economy is it's just a major theme for a lot of funds. And, we live in a world that is more aware of the challenges, gender challenges, diversity challenges, ethnic challenges, handicap challenges, just more aware and more willing to be open about solving them than I think we've ever lived in. So that the general, trend to try to solve these problems has really played in our favor as well.
Okay, good. No, it's interesting. So fairly quickly, you raised the Series A of $8 million. Was that just opportunistic, or you had the growth and the investors coming out?
Yeah, it was growth. So it was growth. So we from raise to raise, we grew about 350%. So we were able to do it in a way that was, a sustained month over month rather than, kind of, an elevator in 1 month. So, it gave us the confidence to say, and we had gone from really serving, while we can serve nationally, marketplaces care about something called liquidity, which is, the balance of, how many buyers and sellers you have. So, we were really trying to be very thoughtful about when we were driving new companies into the platform, that we were driving them where we had the most people looking for work. And so at first that became Chicago. But then, after the seed, we were able to really expand in equal ways to Atlanta and San Francisco. So once we had 3 markets that were really kind of performing well and we got those learnings, we felt like we were kind of able to take that step, to take that bigger investment and move on.
That's great. Yeah, kind of tangent on that. I guess, do you have to build an army of moms or women or candidates before you can go into a new market? Is that kind of the playbook?
Because so if you look at a staffing company, they have to go open a physical office, right? To go try to serve a space, right? Mm-hmm. You look at a Robert Half, in Chicago, they've got 32 offices with 5 to 10 mile radiuses around them for what they serve. So that model is dead. At least that's my opinion. I think the market is hot. I think that, unemployment is so low that, the space is doing very well. But that's just not how skilled professionals, engage with opportunities nowadays. Sure. So, that's my long way of saying it's, we reach out to them on Facebook, we reach out to them on LinkedIn, we're able to, to kind of work through referral. So, we were able to basically grow a market, through just the digital social media and do it relatively quickly, which is an advantage for us so that we can evaluate opening markets or following major customers in a pretty agile way.
Yeah, it makes sense. So putting together the Series A, then same kind of format. Looks like was it Grotech is the lead on that, or
yeah. So we had Initialized Capital and Grotech Ventures. So Initialized Capital, our lead partner on that is Alda Dean. Initialized Capital was founded by Alexis Ohanahan and Gary Tan, and then Grotech Ventures is just a great shop based out of DC. Very disciplined and opportunistic investor. Really liked the marketplace and the women's space. And we connected with them right away.
Yeah, cool. Did you pitch Alexis or Gary or other folks on the team?
Yeah, actually, Allison did. So.
Oh, cool.
You saved the finance guy for when the deal's basically done. So.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, Alexis is, he's recently come out as the spokesman for Unilever and Dove's, parental leave campaign where they're sponsoring fathers with $5,000 grants when they don't have parental leave policies. So, they are, they really do embody kind of this new era of parents. And so I think, they like the space, they like the mission. And so we kind of connected right away.
Interesting. What about, what did you bring from your private equity background or thought process that maybe helped you raise money? Anything you took from those days?
Yeah. So, I mean, understanding your cash flow is so important, right? So, the biggest thing about raising money is not running out of time, So, and inevitably, when you're doing it at the earlier stages, it'll take longer. And if it happens really quickly, be thankful but wary, because often founders will land money quickly and then they'll lock on what I like to call a false consensus. So something they think makes the business work, but maybe it's not the bigger opportunity. So really just, understand your cash flow, your working capital, how to be agile. And then really the second thing is growth. So, growth is 1,000 pivots, right? So, set your strategy and then just be very realistic about, what's happening. So, because, in the first couple, I'd say that our overall strategy hasn't really changed since the day we started the business. but how we got there has really kind of evolved, as we've grown the business. And so, making sure that you're constantly realistically pivoting is just really one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give.
Like what do you mean? Give an example of kind of constantly pivoting, or is it just experimenting with new things, or what?
Yeah, so for us, our initial thought was that business was going to be focused on the return to work audience. So 10 million educated women, not currently participating in the workforce. And so, when we were out raising money, venture capitalists would actually look at that, and then they say, okay, slice it by your function, slice it by your this, and then, oh, by the way, my wife is like incredibly educated, and she was phenomenal when she worked, but I'm not 100% sure that she'd love to go back to a full-time job, and so I'm going to discount this a little bit further. And okay, now I think the addressable market is 1.5 million women, right? So while we knew that this market was huge, with that positioning and with that narrative that we had about the business, people were feeling like maybe it wasn't that big of an addressable market. But then as we were running the business, we knew it was different. So, and what really came forward was that, okay, so over 2/3 of the people that are actually, on the platform and getting work are currently in the workforce. So this isn't just about, bringing people back in, which is a critical piece of what we do. It's really about solving these larger topics for a broader audience, and understanding that, and then understanding what that allowed us to do.
Yeah, good. What's it like working with your wife in a startup? That's kind of risky.
Yeah, I mean,
my friend.
It's funny that you say that. So I've been in the startup since the beginning, but in the first year, even though I had much more fundraising experience, I actively took a backseat. Part of it is this is really, a mission-based business, and Allison is the face, and there couldn't be a better face and a better representative for this mission. But another part of it, to be candid, is that, family business is an uncertainty for an early investor. And, while that may be unfair, they're doing a formula that how many risk factors can I control, right? And, they know that the startup is going to be a grind, and that it's going to be really hard before it's good. And adding the layer of a family dynamic on top of that, it's something that, people are a little squeamish about. Now, there's so many examples of how it actually makes the startup stronger, and how that partnership and that trust and that problem solving really is an advantage. And so I'd like to consider us in that latter camp, but it wasn't great, the fact that I couldn't help more up front, so, and that is a consideration that lots of couples who are looking at starting a business together have to be, whether it's fair or not, just pragmatic about.
It's a lot of time together if you're working together, and yeah.
So and then here's the practical piece of advice: do not run the same parts of the business.
Sure.
Clear lanes. Have some clear lanes. So
clear lanes.
Yeah.
That's good. Very good. Well, this is interesting. Anything you would do differently, or if you could go back and tell your younger self some fundraising advice that we haven't covered? Any tips?
Yeah, I think often, people who are starting a concept, they've got, I don't know, $100,000 to $250,000 of budget that they've kind of marked to put against this. And, you've got to do so much with that. You've got to build a product, you've got a proven market, there's just, it's really not a lot of money to get to some strong proof points. I can share. So, we outsourced to an agency our MVP, and that ultimately was the wrong decision versus bringing in a technical partner from the first day. So the logic goes, once we had gotten to seed, the type of full-time, talent that we could attract into the business would be the type of resource that we, would really need to take it to the next level. So while the product capabilities to get to that first proof point didn't merit it, the reality is you're launching an untested product in the market. Like you don't get to just build it and then watch it go. and then build it later. Like, you have to be constantly building it, right? And it has to be constantly being built by someone who's got equal skin in the game as you. So, in retrospect, we would have brought in, kind of a full-time technologist. In a story of, the distance kind of paid off for us. Luckily, we recently just brought on, a phenomenal technologist who was the founding technologist at a company called Expensify, who Allison had known for many years, and basically spent 3 years trying to recruit. So, for us, getting to that stage, really did pay off to get an exceptional technologist. But in that first year, we totally underestimated the need to have that person in. And the other thing I would say is, don't start a business on your own. Just don't do it. It's not smart. We had, I had finance and operations and business scaling. She had commercial and sales. There's no way you can do those things. And then you should have a product person. So you really, ideally would have three, your CEO, head of sales, your head of technology and product, and then really your head of business, right? Because, to kind of institutionalize rapid scale on a new business requires all three of those skill sets. And even if you are able to kind of do a lot of the overlap, you're not being realistic with yourself. So, I really would seek out founders. But then my caution to that is, don't seek out co-founders because of shared interest. I've seen a lot of friends partner with people because, the people were there, or it was convenient, or, they were really into it. Right. And so that passion outweighed, potentially a technical deficit. And, it's hard when you can't pay full comp, right? Like, when you can't pay market comp, you need people who are making sacrifice and for the mission, right, in the early days. But you have to, so if I'm going to unpack my advice, don't start the business on your own. Start it with founders who have unique skills, and then actually just be really brutal about what the right skill is. So like, you could hire people who have the best backgrounds, but if they don't actually know how to build specifically what you're trying to build, it doesn't really matter. So just be very candid about, what you actually think is needed, and have those people. And so that's just from a team side. And then from an investor side, one thing that I didn't fully appreciate, to be candid, was the difficulty of raising, angel and seed funds. So I came from a mid-market buyout fund, right? And so, we did venture deals, but those deals typically started at B level, right? And so, I had finance contacts. I was in the space, but really, what angel investors or seed investors are looking for is they're looking for validation, and the founder really is the first thing they're testing. And the way that they really actually get comfortable testing the founder is when a super angel or somebody who actually gets it is in there, right? Has written that $100,000 check or that $250,000 check, is making that introduction. So, I think we could have gotten, I don't know if super angel is the right term. We could have gotten that person in the mix earlier if we had been aware of it. It really wasn't until Eddie Liu, who is the founder of ShiftGig, which is another talent marketplace based out of Chicago, kind of came onto our board, and really helped communicate what we were doing to the investment community, that things really started to take off.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good strategy. Kind of spending a lot of your energy landing that one super angel or influencer or whatever you want to call it, before we went out the others. Good stuff. All right. Well, if people want to learn more, it's just themomproject.com, correct?
That is correct.
And anything you want to plug or announce or promote, or just to people?
Yeah. So two things. Go to themomproject.com, create a profile of your talent. Everything is ultra confidential. You'll just be curated opportunities as your match. If your company, whether you've got 5 employees or 5,000, go and create a profile, and you'll get access to incredible people that you will not have to make any payment on until literally the first day that they start working. And so it's really kind of a model that incentivizes getting back to work, getting the work done. And then the other thing that we're doing that's actually pretty exciting is called the Women's Work Initiative. So in 2018, we launched the Women's Work Initiative in Atlanta, and it was a public-private partnership with some of the largest companies there and the mayor's office, Honorable Keisha Lance Bottoms, who was a mother of two and new mayor in Atlanta. And so what we did is we partnered with AT&T, Georgia Pacific, Invesco, Voya, and others, worked with the mayor's office to get over 50 women back to work and to really create a blueprint for solving this $800 billion gender inequity challenge that we have nationally. And so this year we're rolling it out nationally with some really exceptional brands. And what we're doing is we're getting over 1,000 women back to work through this Women's Work Initiative, where we're really going to be highlighting the companies that participate and just helping everyone realize how to do this, in a scalable way. So if this is interesting to you or interesting to someone that please tell them to reach out to Nathan, give me information, or you can just go to themomproject.com. And the Women's Work Initiative is a tab on the top, and we'll reach out to you. So
perfect.
Thank you for that chance. Yeah.
All right. It's excellent. Well, congrats. Good job. And yeah, it sounds great. Are there many men on the platform? You said it's not exclusively for women, but are there any real men on there?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So we're an equal opportunity platform. So we obviously market to women, but when someone joins and bids, it's blind. So I'd say about 10% of the people on the platform are men, and a large percentage aren't mothers yet. So a lot of people either associate with the values, or they plan to have a family and they're in the process of trying to figure out how to navigate it. So it really, while we're called the Mom Project, and that really is, what we embody, it's really for everybody. Good.
All right, Gregory, this is great. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll catch you after your Series B. How about that?
Sure thing. Thanks, Nathan.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.